are visionaries who have rewritten history by paving a new path of progress. Hello and welcome to Techno Phantom. VFlip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. On today's episode, we have with us Vinita Singh, the visionary founder of Sugar Cosmetics, who has flipped the narrative being a woman entrepreneur. Let's take a look at her incredible journey. Meet Vinita Singh, CEO and co-founder of Sugar Cosmetics and an IIT and IIM graduate. What started as a dream moved on to redefining beauty standards. Soon after her graduation, Vinita was offered a package of 1 crore rupees by an investment bank. However, Vinita's path took a turn where she declined the offer to follow her passion of becoming an entrepreneur. With unwavering dedication, Vinita transformed Sugar into a global beauty brand celebrating individuality and empowerment. Vinita, welcome to Techno Phantom. VFlip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. And before we deep dive into this conversation, we'll begin with a rapid fire round. So let's see how fast you are. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
If you could time travel, which era would you visit?
I would go 100 years into the future and figure out if we manage to survive the climate crisis.
That's true. Which book are you currently reading?
Good strategy, bad strategy.
Your go-to comfort food?
Rajma chawal.
Oh, mine too. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Work from home or work from office?
Work from office. I have 2 small kids, so work from home is almost impossible.
I understand. City life or the country?
Living in the city, but holidaying in the countryside.
Yes. Top 3 essentials for a successful entrepreneur?
I would say number 1 is resilience. Number 2 is resilience. And number 3 is resilience too.
That is so right. And on that note, Vinita, as we talk about your journey and how it has been in all these years, where did and how did Sugar Cosmetics come about and what inspired you to start it?
Firstly, thanks so much for doing shining the spotlight on women pioneers, much needed.
Yes.
I won't say what inspired me, I would say who inspired me. It was young women. We were running an e-commerce business and I started seeing that over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen women literacy go up by about 15%, which finally gave young women financial freedom, the freedom to dream, the freedom to follow their own passion. And what that meant was that they were making their own choices and they needed beauty products that fit in with that lifestyle. They wanted products that were really long lasting, that suited the Indian complexion without them having to feel that they were made to wear something that was 3 shades lighter. When we started, we really thought that we'd be only a brand for young women and sold online. But as luck would have it, young women now make about 65% of the Indian demographic, and a lot of the disposable consumption happens via young women. So we are very lucky that Sugar is now the 3rd largest color cosmetics brand in India, used by women across all age groups.
You're an IIT, IIM. What was your childhood like? A very nerdy childhood, and did you always know that you had the business acumen in you? Were your parents also very encouraging of it?
I did have a very nerdy childhood. I grew up in the AIIMS campus. Both my parents are actually medical researchers. My dad was in AIIMS, my mother in ICMR. So there was nobody in our distant family who had a business. And I don't think we ever spoke about starting up in those years. You know, I was growing up in the 1990s in Delhi, and it was just about, going from a government job to a private job, and but still maintaining that security net. And I wanted to build something for women because I thought that women consumers would really see a shift, because my generation was very different. We were unstoppable, we were empowered, and I just thought that it would be a good opportunity to create a business, but I didn't know where to start. So many years I fumbled, started up a few businesses, they didn't work out, tried raising capital, but it was almost impossible. There were many years of struggle. Over the last 15 years, I finally figured out where my passion was in building a beauty brand out of India, made for Indian women. You know, I get to every month sign the paycheck of thousands of people, including 3,000 women. And that makes me so proud. I don't think any job, no matter how much it paid, would have given me that kind of joy and fulfillment as this gives me. So it turned out to be a topsy-turvy journey, but I am very grateful that when I was 23, I had the courage to not take up a regular job and actually start up.
That is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about next. That period obviously wasn't easy. You passed out in 2007. There were 2 failed business ventures before Sugar Cosmetics happened, and you had a plum job offer and a lot of money staring right at you to take the easier path and get on it. Probably investment banking was a plausible option. But you left all of that, kept that away, and you stayed focused that this is what I want to do. What was that period like?
Yeah, it was very hard, honestly speaking. There were many years that I struggled to even make ends meet. And I will say that there were many days where I regretted my decision. I just, even had all kinds of self-doubt that maybe I'm not born to be an entrepreneur. Before becoming an entrepreneur, I had read so many books by other entrepreneurs. And then when I went back and started thinking about all those role models who I had in those books, Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Larry Ellison, I realized that they were all these visionary, charismatic men who were, geniuses of their time. And I suddenly thought that, maybe as somebody who's an honest, hardworking woman, this wasn't the right career choice. And, I started even thinking that maybe women don't make good entrepreneurs. And I had self-doubt where I wondered if I should just, try to get a job. But as an entrepreneur, when you've tried building something for 5 years and you failed, you wonder what kind of job you'll get, because you do everything from jhadu pocha to recruiting people to sales to coding. It's a variety of different skills, but there is no compounding of a specialization. And I think that probably 5-6 years into my entrepreneurial journey was my lowest point, where I really wondered if women can make good entrepreneurs. And I really thought if I should quit and go back to looking for a job. And I just thought, let me try one more time. And I'm very grateful for the decision. While the next adventure also did not immediately work out, it pivoted to sugar. And now I'm so grateful for the journey, because not only through my story, but through a lot of other women entrepreneurs I know, I now realize that entrepreneurs come in all shapes, sizes, genders, age groups. I think good things take time. And as long as you have the patience, I think anybody can be an entrepreneur. You just need to have the patience and the ability to show up every single day for your consumer, day after day for many years. And that, I think, a lot of women have the power to do, because they're very resilient. Women, especially moms, just have the kind of resilience and strength that nobody talks about. And I think that makes us great entrepreneurs. And I now think that it's time to, have more books that showcase those stories.
Again, going back to the time when you were setting up all of this, were there gender stereotypes that you had to witness? What were the challenges that you went through? Were there doubts in terms of will she be able to do it? Men working below you, reporting to you, but exercising that sense of dominance. Did you experience that? What was it like?
I think it's so much better now, and which is why I keep telling women that it's the best time to build. But really 10 years ago, it was very hard. I have been in investor pitches where I've been told to my face things like, we invested in a certain woman entrepreneur many years back, and she decided to prioritize her family later, so we're not investing in any more women. And I remember thinking that you've made a decision on an entire gender based on the sample size of one. And I've been in conversations where, my husband and I started Sugar, and he was still doing a job where I was doing this full time. And an investor said that until he comes on board full time, we cannot consider investing in this because we're anyway skeptical about couple founders, but just banking on a woman as a founder is going to be very tough for us. So I think there is one part of it which is the bias, which I think to an extent still exists. But 10 years ago, it was also okay to vocalize these biases. I've seen situations where there have been doubts where, depending on what you were wearing, people really questioned how skillful you are. So I remember in my previous company, I used to sell to HR managers, and I remember thinking about wearing, say, a salwar kameez or graying my hair to look older and to look more respectable, because I thought that as a young girl in her 20s, nobody would believe that I could bring something special to the table. And yes, I for a long time thought that the only people who would want to work for me or report to me would be young women, because for men who were older or more experienced, they wouldn't think they could have anything to learn from me. But I think in the last 5 years, I've seen a lot of it change, and I'm very optimistic about the next 10 years, what they hold. I think people have really given up talking about their biases, so I'm now waiting for them to put their money where their mouth is, which means more capital going to women. But honestly, Suyesha, if you look at numbers still, less than 8% in senior leadership is women across the board. Even in entry-level jobs, it's still 30-35%. So, that there is still that resistance where women get dropped off somewhere. And I feel that it is on to entrepreneurs like us who are leading organizations to really try and change that. But it's going to take a long time. I still feel that there are many women who come to work at Sugar and other organizations who go through that struggle of not having enough support at home, feeling that guilt of balancing these multiple roles, and just feeling that burden of carrying the weight of the families on their shoulders single-handedly. And I feel that, apart from whatever organizations are going to do, this has to change. I am one of the lucky ones who had parents who inspired me to be ambitious, so I'm not afraid to be ambitious openly. And I'm one of the lucky ones who has her spouse supporting at home. But for a lot of women out there, they are told to put their ambition inside the closet, because they'll be judged. They won't get liked if they come across as too bold or too ambitious. And there are so many women who don't have that support from their families, and it is a struggle. So I think our vision of becoming the $5 trillion economy, it really rests on getting this, gender balance right at workplace. And McKinsey's report says that if we don't increase participation of women by at least 10%, we're putting $800 billion of GDP at risk, because you can't be in a country where half the population is not getting the opportunity or the support to come to work. So I feel very grateful that I'm getting to do this, and I built my own company, and I think it's on to me to create more opportunities for other women. I have a seat at the table now, so I have to create more seats for other women. But it is, I feel, still quite hard out there in corporate India.
You are one of the fiercest sharks, and which is why I say, did you ever see yourself reaching this platform one day? All your learnings through this journey, and the very many women entrepreneurs that you get to witness being on this platform, and how the workforce and the attitude is really changing in that sense. What are your learnings?
I feel that in my own journey, one of the biggest challenges was access to capital, and the numbers are, Suyesha, still dismal. It's like less than 2% of the capital goes to women-run companies. Out of 100%, less than 2%. And even globally, that number is just 2 to 3%. A lot of women like me, and like a lot of women that come to raise funding from me, we're going to create our own opportunities by building our businesses. And women-run companies employ more women. And I think then those women start their own businesses. So this is this flywheel, I feel, that we're starting, which is going to be unstoppable for getting more women into work.
Wonderful. And on that note, Vineeta, we slip into a short commercial break, but we'll continue with this conversation on the other side. And in fact, a lot more that I want to ask you. And for all our viewers watching right now, do stay tuned to Techno Phantom. VFlip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. We'll be back on the other side.
back to Techno Phantom. VFlip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV. With me on the show is Vinita Singh. Vinita, we've been talking about some very interesting things, and while we continue to talk about that more, you know, the thing about pioneers is that they think differently. Would you say for you to have a homegrown product, understand the needs of an Indian woman, how would you say all of this just worked well together?
I think the single biggest insight for me has been that the consumer is the queen. And I have obsessed over the last 10 years in just figuring out how I can make young women more unstoppable. Even if you crack a great product, there's a next year. And as an entrepreneur, you're only as good as your last big product, your last financial year success. And that's why it's not a one-time breakthrough, but you have to keep doing it over and over again. And I think as Sugar, we've been able to do that because we're obsessed. I am personally obsessed with just making young women unstoppable.
And just how passionate you are and how passionately you talk about this is clearly rubbing off on me. But then again, to understand that little girl, Vinita, who was raised in Delhi, what was the inclination towards makeup behind all the books?
Yeah, it was very low, honestly. My father was a professor, and he really thought that he wanted me to, be the best in the world in my career, whether as an engineer or in business or whatever I take up. And he just felt that everything else was a distraction. So I was discouraged from even, like piercing my ears. So I managed to do that after I graduated when I was in IIT. And I think, so I was the typical nerd who didn't know much about makeup growing up. So my obsession with this category started from the consumer's obsession. And I realized that young women think a lot about makeup because makeup makes them express themselves, makes them feel confident, makes them, do something for themselves. And that's how it started. And I feel that, what could have been my biggest weakness, the fact that I didn't grow up wearing a lot of makeup, turned out to be my biggest strength because I could relate to the girl next door. I could relate to the girl who had regular skin with skin issues and went through public transport and, would sweat all day and wanted makeup that would last through that sweating. And I felt that, that connection happened because I was that girl. And I feel that many times, people with absolutely, who create products for celebrities don't get the requirement of the regular girl in India, which I really got because I was her. And in India, women, even if they've had access to makeup growing up, they're still underconfident. They'll buy 100 products, but they'll wear only 20 because they feel conscious. So I think I also managed to get us on that journey of educating India on makeup. And I want that to, be for every single Indian woman out there who's still afraid to use all the makeup in her repertoire, but can learn on Sugar's Instagram page and then try it out for herself.
And as an angel investor yourself, how much can you really contribute to one trying to not just make and flourish his or her own business? Like, what is your role and what is your advice to those coming to you?
So honestly, as an angel investor, apart from just knowing which, horse to bet on, you can't really have much impact. So which is why I look for the best founders, and then I really just let them build the business that they want to, because a lot of businesses like ours also go through pivots where you start with something, then you face a roadblock, then you move in a different direction, and then you figure out what your breakthrough is. And that journey the entrepreneur can only take. So as long as the entrepreneur is somebody who's committed that I am going to give my next 10 years, 20 years to this, I would love to bet on them, irrespective of what product or market they're operating in. I feel that they'll be able to figure it out. So just be patient and stay at it. Don't burn a lot of capital. Listen to your consumer. Your consumer will take you to the right answer. Like our consumer took us to Sugar. It wasn't the other way around.
You're a mother of two, successful. What's your advice again to mothers or even to young women who dream and want to dream on, but you wouldn't want to think of it as a roadblock?
What holds a lot of women back is guilt and it operates both ways.
And for mothers especially.
For mothers especially. I myself went through the journey where when I was pregnant for the first time, I hid it from our investors till almost a month before the delivery, till they figured it out by themselves. Because I thought that, when my business is struggling, if I tell my investors that I am about to have a child, they will judge me and, they will think that I was such a disappointment that I raised money from them and then let them down by deciding to prioritize having my family. And, when I actually had my first child, I realized that they were so supportive about it. I myself, felt, just having that little pillar in my life made me so much stronger, even as an entrepreneur. And rather than it becoming my weakness, it was my biggest strength. And I'm not ashamed for times where I have to prioritize them over my work or vice versa. I don't feel guilty. There are times where I've talk to my husband openly, where I tell him that, you have to tell me I'm doing a great job, because women have the tendency to keep going into that trap of guilt. And all my friends are this club where, they keep reminding me I'm doing fine. It is just, I think, a lot of, narrative around women can't have it all, etc., that's holding us back. But time's up. I think we own our own space now, and it's time to, do whatever our heart tells us to.
Fantastic. And I must ask you, Vinita, that how do you think technology has empowered women to challenge and shatter traditional gender norms and empower women to take control of their lives?
I think technology has been very powerful for women. It has given us financial freedom, because there are so many tools that women can finally use to not depend on the men in their lives for that financial freedom. And it has given us freedom over our time. Women at different stages in life prioritize how they want to work, but technology makes it much easier for them to do it in the way that works for them.
And as we wrap this conversation, your message to the young generation?
My message to young generation, especially women, would be don't ever be afraid to be ambitious. Put your ambition out there, dream big, and feel empowered to go after your dreams. Don't hesitate.
Vinita, it has been lovely talking to you, and like I said, that you're such a believer, you're so passionate yourself that I can only imagine how that has led you to the success that you see today. I want to wish you all the very best for all your future endeavors, and thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you so much, and thank you once again for celebrating women pioneers. It's a really important mission that you're going after.
Absolutely. But we possibly can't leave without taking a selfie. Are you ready?
Always ready. What could have been my biggest weakness, the fact that I didn't grow up wearing a lot of makeup, turned out to be my biggest strength, because I could relate to the girl next door. I could relate to the girl who had regular skin with skin issues and went through public transport and would sweat all day and wanted makeup that would last through that sweating. People with absolutely who create products for celebrities don't get the requirement of the regular girl in India, which I really got because I was her.
Let Vinita's story be an example of courage and resilience. We'll be back in the next episode with yet another interesting story. Until then, stay tuned to Techno Phantom VFlip 5G presents Women Pioneers of India in association with Republic TV.